recent polling in Canada showed that 75% of Canadians have an unfavorable opinion of President Trump, and 27% view the U.S. as an enemy. 30%, only 30% still view the U.S. as an ally. I come from a state that borders Canada. I know when you were in Congress, you represented a district that bordered Canada. We have the highest percentage of Canadian Americans of any state in the country. I find it very troubling that we are seeing our national anthem booed at ice hockey games, and that the country where we've got the longest undefended border in the world, where we have had such a positive relationship over the years, is now viewing America in the way they are because of this president's statements. They find it particularly offensive that he's talking about Canada as the 51st state. And I don't blame him, I gotta be honest. So how do you, I appreciated your opening statement and your talking about the importance of Canada to the United States, but how do you see approaching turning around that negative relationship that has developed because of the president's statements, and how do you envision addressing tariff issues?
It's a great question. Obviously, I've been spending a lot of time thinking about that myself, pending the confirmation by the Senate of having to go there and being kind of the tip of the spear. And what we really spent a tremendous amount of time on is focusing on the strength of the relationship between our two countries. Your state, my state, we have thousands of people, thousands of businesses that rely on this relationship, and they just, they see what's going on at 30,000 feet, but they gotta go to work every day, and they need to make this work. We have cooperated with Canada on so many things. In Michigan, it's the Great Lakes. That's important to us. It's trade. It's business. My experience on the Intel Committee, it is about NATO and those types of things. Canada's part of Five Eyes. So we have a great history of working together, and we know how to make this work. We now have to make and take that and say, we know how to make this work. Now let's do it and apply our experience to the priorities that the president has outlined. Freer, fairer trade, so that we can actually grow the business relationship between Canada and the U.S.
Excuse me for interrupting, but isn't it true that Canada has one of the lowest tariff regimes of any country in the world, and that with the exception of dairy, which the president has pointed out and which I know we're still working on, that actually the tariffs in Canada are not outlandishly restrictive, and we've gotten along very well. I have small businesses in New Hampshire. One in particular called me over the weekend. They make sugar-free candy. They have a retail store in one community and a factory in another. They do 85% of their business with Canada, and Canada has now canceled all of their orders. So they're not sure they're going to be able to continue to operate. And I hear that story time and time again from small businesses in New Hampshire. So how is this trade war helping our economy here, and what are the metrics that the president has that say that when Canada and the United States reach this agreement that we're going to stop the trade war? Because everybody's operating, or we thought we were operating, under an agreement that the president actually negotiated when he was in his first term and credited as being the best trade agreement ever negotiated in the United States.
Yeah, thanks for the follow-up. I think the president has outlined a series of priorities relating to Canada. Trade and freer, fairer trade with Canada is one. Also, a request to work with the United States on the issue of fentanyl, something that I know is a very important issue in New Hampshire. Across the country, we lose 55,000 people per year.
We do, absolutely, and we have less than 1% of the fentanyl that comes into this country comes from Canada. They actually, last year, interdicted more drugs from the United States than we interdicted from Canada.
Yeah.
And, you know, I agree, we need to get rid of all fentanyl, and that's important. But let's be honest about what's happening here.